My name is Rachel Roffey. I created this show because I wanted to help you see that if you have a choice, you can choose a better life. If you're listening to this podcast, you're in a pretty fortunate position. You have free will, ability to connect to the internet, and access to all kinds of new education. This podcast is meant to help you make the most of your good fortune. We talk with all kinds of people here from all walks of life because I want you to see that no matter what your situation, there's always a way to create a life that you're proud of. Hello! So today's show is with Lee Cockerell. He is the former Executive Vice President of Operations for Walt Disney World. He actually still works with Walt Disney World. And as the Senior Operating Executive for 10 years, he has led teams of 40,000 employees. He was responsible for the operations of 20 resort hotels, 4 theme parks, 2 water parks, a shopping and entertainment village, and the ESPN Sports and Recreation Complex, plus all the ancillary operations, which, just supported the #1 vacation destination in the world. One of his major and lasting legacies was the creation of Disney Great Leader Strategies, which was used to train and develop 7,000 leaders at Walt Disney World. And in 1990, he opened the Disneyland Paris project. His bio says that he is the perhaps hardest working person on the planet, and he's always just seconds away from delivering another profound, notable, quotable that everyone will write down immediately. And in this talk today with Lee, we covered a lot of ground. First I asked him just about, he said if he is the hardest working person on the planet, I was curious about, does he feel like you can still live a rich life that feels like it's well lived if you're working often? So I got his perspective on that, some different things he does around time management, around starting a business. I asked him some questions about what to do if you're starting a business, if you're on a budget or not, different things. He shared some Disney principles around how they hire people and how they're able to create such magic. And then we got a little bit personal, and he told me about a time when he was depressed. And so he shared what was able to get him through that. So we covered all kinds of different things. Lee has a ton of phenomenal information. I thought it was a cool interview. So enjoy. Thank you so much for being here, Lee.
Hi there, Rachel. Good to be here.
Awesome. So the intention behind A Better Life is to show people that if they have a choice, they can choose a better life. So in that spirit, can you take a minute with us to just brag and share some of the things that you're most proud of in your life?
Well, I got pretty lucky. I grew up on a little farm in Oklahoma, and I probably was the most likely not to succeed. My mother was married 5 times. I was adopted twice. I got the name Cockerell when I was 16, and then I went to college and didn't do well, so I went in the Army. And then I ended up running Disney World, so that's a pretty good life. And people say, how'd you do that? I said, well, a couple of things. I'm proud of, certainly my wife and I have been married 46 years. My son is very successful. He's the vice president of Disney Hollywood Studios. 3 grandkids who like me better than their parents. One's 19, he's at the University of Miami, and a 16-year-old girl who's looking at NYU and Emory and other cool, and another boy, 13, and everybody lives in Orlando, so I'm proud of that. And I think, I'm really just, I think what I'm most proud of is that the success I had in my career without a college degree, and trying to share that with people that don't underestimate what you can do in your life. That's really what it's turned out for me, that I think too many people give up too early. So it's a lot of fun to think about. There's a lot you can do if you just wake up every morning and go after it.
I love it. So your bio just says that you're the hardest working person on the planet, and you were just saying how if you go after it. So what drives you?
Insecurity. 2 things, insecurity and compulsive. I mean, tell my wife compulsiveness is just a higher level of responsibility. She doesn't think that's funny. But, yeah, I just have, I was very insecure when I was a young person, and kind of grew up introverted, and I finally worked my way out of it, went and got a speech coach and learned how to speak. And if you'd have told me 40 years ago that I'd be giving keynote speeches for a living, I would have told you got to be the craziest person in the world. Because I took speech in college and dropped out the night before I had to give a speech. Yeah, you just you work it, and you understand that sometimes it may take a little longer. Somebody said, gosh, it could take 2 or 3 years to get better at something. I said, yeah, but 2 or 3 years is going to go by anyway, so you might as well get with it. You can either have an average life or you can have a great life, and it takes more effort to have a great life.
That's a great point. So do you still feel like you're not battling, but do you still think you're working so hard because of insecurity?
I don't know what it is anymore. I've kind of lost track of what it is, but I enjoy what I do now. People say to me, Lee, why do you do this? I said, because people applaud. They give a round of applause and sometimes standing ovations when I give a seminar or give a speech. And when I play golf, nobody applauds. So I do this. This is my golf game. I enjoy it. It's fun, and it helps people. You know, I always say to them, if you can help people, why not? If I can give them some advice about how not to make the mistakes I made early in my career and how to be better a leader and a better manager and how to improve customer service, if I can do that, maybe I can leave a little bit of a legacy with some people who can look back and help people that Lee Cockerell helped them way back.
I love it. So do you feel like, you know, I know you have been working really hard and you're going and you're doing these keynote speeches and you have so many people, these books and all these things. I'm wondering, do you feel like you can have like a rich life that feels really well lived, including just not work things and still work really hard? Like, do you feel like your quality of life is also pretty great?
Listen, I wrote a book recently, just came out 3 weeks ago, called Time Management Magic, How to Get More Done Every Day. How to go from surviving to thriving. And I think if you focus where you spend your time, you pay attention to where you spend your time, and you clearly know the 3 or 4 most important things in your life, and that you spend time on those every day, and you let the other stuff fall away. Don't be spending time trying to help Kim Kardashian with her life, or the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Really think about where you spend your time. And listen, I spend my time in 3 areas. One is my health. I pay attention to that every single day. I pay attention to my family in a big way. Number 2, and I say number 2 because my wife said, Lee, take care of yourself or you can't take care of us. Stay healthy. And last, I take care of my finances so that I can help my grandchildren, I can help nonprofits, I can help our relatives sometimes who need some help. And you got to know what you're going to spend your time on and what you're not going to spend your time on. And I don't think the average person thinks about this. I have a great life. My wife travels with me if she wants to. If she doesn't want to, if she likes where I'm going, she goes. We went to Portugal. She went. Go to Chile. She goes. You know, if I'm going to, I won't say what city, she stays home. I don't want to offend anybody. But, yeah, we have fun together. We just, I think you can have both, but you got to know what you want. And if you don't know where, it's kind of like going on vacation. If you don't know where you're going, you're not going to get there. And if you don't know where you're going, you're not going to have the right plan. And I don't wake up in the morning and hope the day works out. I wake up in the morning and I think about my health. I exercise every day. I have a strength trainer twice a week to get bone density so I don't fall and break a hip one day and end up in a wheelchair for 30 years. I spend time with my wife. We go to lunch a few times a week. She travels with me. I like having her with me. When I was working like a dog at Marriott, I spent the weekends with my son. I didn't play golf. He doesn't even think I was ever gone, although I was gone 5 days a week. It's not how much time you spend doing things, it's how you spend it. Are you paying attention? Do you, as I said to my wife, are you watching TV or are you paying attention to what your wife's saying? If you're paying attention, life works out pretty good. If you're not, you get into a little disruption. So I think you can have both. I think you can work hard at both. And if you stay fit, you have more energy. You can do more. This is the problem. Most people they let their health get out of. They get no energy. They eat too much. They're overweight. And they drink too much and they can't sleep. And the next thing you know, you don't do much. If you don't feel healthy and high energy, you're not going to do much. And that's why I always tell people, you've got to focus on the important things. Everything else can just fall by the wayside.
So how did you decide what your 3 most important things were for you?
Well, I really believe that the biggest regret you will have in your life is if you lose your health. And I've seen my mother died of lung cancer from smoking. A lot of people in our family have not made it because of poor health habits. And my wife and I talk about it. I get my physicals. I go see the doctors at the right intervals. I exercise every single day. I get strength training, so I take care of that bone density problem. Especially women should be thinking about that. So I just think about that. If you're not healthy, what else? You can't do much else. And then my family is really vital. I grew up in a dysfunctional family. My mother was married 5 times. I'm not going to let that happen to my family. We changed the course. we changed the course, and we talked about that. And we make sure that we figure it out and work it out. And, you know, I've been married 46 years, 47 coming up in August, and my son's been married 24. You know, we've broken the chain. And sometimes you got to decide to take it a different route. That's what we think about it. That's the problem. Most people don't think about it. And is marriage easy? No, it's hard. And sometimes you got to give in. You got to let it go. It's like that Frozen song, let it go, let it go, let it go. And that's what I do. And now that's why when my wife says something I don't like, I just let it go. And then, you know, your finances, if you don't have money, you can't do the things you want to do. I can't be out there teaching and training and writing books. And people say finance, money doesn't make you happy, but it really does make you have the ability to help other people. If you don't have money, you can't give people money. And so I just think about those three, and I can't think of other things. I have a few friends, you know, but I think at the end of the day, you got to be careful who, you know, it's probably not your Facebook friends, and don't spend too much time there. And if you're going to spend time with your real friends, then do that. But I think a lot. I think every day I sit and think about, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? What am I not doing that I should be doing? Let me tell you, if people would sit quietly think about the responsibilities in their life, they'd have a better life.
So I'm curious, you mentioned friends. So if somebody does want to get together, for example, how do you prioritize that?
Yeah, my wife and I talk about it. You know, one thing in time now, you got to learn to say no too. We could go out every night in Orlando and come home and get to bed at midnight and go out and drink too much and eat too much. And we say no a lot, and we tell people why. That we'll go out early. We'll go out on a Saturday, but not on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like you can do that every night. And our friends know that. Even we have our own kind of, on New Year's Eve, we have our own time zone. We tell people to come at 6 and set their watch to 8. We tell them to leave at 10. Their watch will say midnight. And we just have a lot of fun. And we have friends who kind of are in the same kind of time zone as we are. And because you just got to decide what to say yes to and what to say no to. And is it the best thing for your health, your family, and that you can get everything done. So a lot of people just run around going out every night, and then you can't get up the next morning, and next thing you know, you're not exercising because you don't feel like it. You drank too many beers last night. All these things just kind of collapse on you. So I think one thing is every morning sit quietly, think about what you should be doing, and where you're spending your time getting you the goals that you're trying to reach in your life.
Do you have like a guiding belief or some kind of quote or phrase that inspires you every day?
Yeah, don't underestimate what you can do. I think this is the biggest problem most people have today. They underestimate what they can achieve. And we're living in America, by the way. You can do anything you want here. There's a guy that didn't go to college and became the head of operations for Disney. Come on, where can you do that? Nowhere else in the world. So don't underestimate what you can do. I tell everybody that. You can do it. If you can't do it, you can get help. People are willing to help you. You don't have to do everything. You can ask for help. People will be glad to step up. Don't underestimate what you can do, because you don't have to have an average life. You can have a great life. Does it take a little more risk? Sure. You got to push a little harder? Sure. But let me tell you, until you've experienced great, you don't. I always tell people, do you want to have a great surgeon or a good surgeon when you get surgery? If you have children, you want to have good kids or great kids. You want to feel good in the morning, you want to feel great. And that's how I think about it. And it's so much, great is so much bigger than good, but it takes some risk. And my wife and I moved 11 times to make sure we had a good, excellent life. And I got fired once and we moved, and I got passed over for a promotion once and we moved, and I quit once because I had a boss that was a total jerk, and we moved. We moved 11 times, and we had a great time, because we're not going to sit around and have somebody work us over or beat us up or not treat us properly. And so, yeah, is it risky? Sure. I tell people, be careful where you get stuck. You can get stuck in the wrong place, and next time you turn around, it's 30 years have gone by and you're not happy. You really got to manage your life. You got to keep it under control.
Absolutely. So when you say like you've moved because you want an excellent life, did you have a picture of what excellent life would look like for you? Like, do you have goals that you're trying to achieve and then you're making your decisions based on that? Or just like, how do you know what's excellent?
Yeah, for me, I knew that I had to keep learning. So I was listening to tapes and reading books, and I'm one of these people. I asked a million questions when I went to work every day. I never left work not getting an answer to my question. So I kept learning. Next thing I knew, they started promoting me. And I kept learning, kept learning, kept learning. So that was a goal of mine. I was reading a lot. I was listening to tapes on leadership and management, customer service. When I didn't know what something was in some kind of food, and I was in the food business, I went and talked to the chef, and I answered it. And, you know, today we don't really have any reason. With Google, we can know anything we want to know. That continual learning I was always focused on, and I wanted the promotions. I wanted to go up to the next level because I knew I could do more. I could lead and I could manage. And so usually in the hotel business, you had to move to get a promotion. So with Marriott, and you're living in Philadelphia, the promotion's in Chicago. And then the next promotion's in New York City. And then the next one's in Los Angeles. And then it's Paris. And I happened to be in a business where you had to move if you wanted to get promoted. So, yeah, and my wife is a saint, let me tell you. Her father was an admiral in the Navy. They moved 12 times. She's moved 12 with him and 11 with me. And we've been in this house for 22 years, so you can imagine what it was like in the early days. We had fun. We liked everywhere we lived. You spend most of your time at work or home anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I would tell you the highlight of my day every day is getting home at night, coming home. Even when you're on vacation, it always feels better to come home than it does to go on vacation. I don't know why, but home is really special, especially if it's stable. Yeah.
Definitely. So I saw you do a bunch of speaking, obviously, and one of your kind of bullet points for one of your talks is how you can share about the most important question to ask yourself every morning before you start your day. Can you tell us what that is?
Well, you know, when I think about that every day, I think about, you know, how should I be spending my day? And I've already told people, I would tell you, if you ask the average person, they cannot tell you the three most important things they're going to focus on every day. They can't tell you. They cannot say those three things. And they should be able to say them. I don't care if they have to write them down. I just ask myself every day if I'm focused on the right things, if I'm doing the right things. And I think one of the best pieces of advice I got from my wife was she said, Lee, be careful what you say and do today. Everyone's watching and judging you. You know, and I think all of us could take that lesson with social media, and everybody's got a camera and everybody's got a recording device. Careful what you say and do today. Everyone's watching and judging you, and role modeling is one of the most important things you can do in teaching other people, whether it's your children or whether it's people at work. And there's a lot of bad role modeling today, a lot of bad leadership, a lot of bad behavior, and you got to make sure you don't get caught up in that, because, you know, I don't know if you followed the story of the kids over at the University of Oklahoma last week making inappropriate comments about African Americans. I mean, listen, this guy's lives are ruined. I mean, they'll never get over it. And you can't get a DUI these days. I mean, it'll be on your record and on the internet for the rest of your life. You got to be careful. That's some advice I think. I tell people, you can Google me, you will find nothing negative, because I'm very careful to make sure nothing negative don't do it so it doesn't end up on there, because your reputation can be gone in 10 seconds.
Yeah, I saw one of your podcasts. You said that we're always putting on a show, huh?
Yeah, Disney, I learned that more. I didn't know that so much when I worked at Hilton and Marriott, but when I came here, really, that's the whole premise of Disney. We're putting on a show, so everybody's got a role in the show. Whether you're a dishwasher, whether you're cleaning bathrooms, whether you're an executive, whether you're Mickey Mouse, whatever you're doing, you have a role in the show. And everybody needs to know their role in the show. They need to know what they can say and can't say. They need to rehearse. They need to be professional. Even I say to people at Disney, you know, you don't have to be happy to work at Disney. You got to act happy for 8 hours. You know, it's like when you go to Broadway. I guarantee you, the leading lady, she goes up on that stage. She's professional. She does it every night, even though she had an argument with her boyfriend. She puts on a show, because that's what professionals do. And I think in any business, I don't care what business, Vegas, casinos, restaurants, rental cars, gas station, a hospital. Make sure you know you're putting on a show, and when you think about the big red curtain opening every morning, make sure you know what you're doing, you know your role in the show, and that you actually perform it professionally every single day. That's what professionals do. And I think if businesses start thinking that way, they would get better, because they do a lot of unprofessional stuff. You go to restaurants, and people are over texting each other, they're not paying attention to you, nobody says good morning, nobody says goodbye, nobody says thank you. It's unbelievable. You're putting on a show, and if you want to be the best in the world, you got to put on the best show in the world. So it's a good concept and a good model for thinking about how to run a business, making sure all your employees know that they are actors in a business and we're putting on a show. And we want a hit show that runs for 30 years.
That's a really great point. So, yeah, you're now working with this Thrive 15 company, and I know that they're all about teaching people how to start and grow businesses in a really practical way. So for you, since you touched on business, let's just go that route. Like for you, like what do you feel like are the best steps to start a business that's going to be great?
You know what? I had to do it myself. I worked for corporations my whole life, and then next thing I know, I retired, and I had to start thinking about, okay, how do I start my consulting business? How do I get these books? How do I publish them? How do I promote them? I had to do the same thing, and I started thinking about it. I made a list of the things I needed. The first thing I needed was a website. And so I found me an expert, and he designed it for me, and then I wrote the content. And then next thing I needed to know is I needed a tax accountant, and then I needed an investment person, and then I needed to make sure that I had all the systems in place where I could do the contract. I needed a contract. I got that set up on my computer, and then I got an invoice set up. And then just went through the steps, and this is what this Thrive15.com does. It tells you how to do things that you need to do. You know, having a good idea is not enough if you can't execute it. You know, how do you set up an LLC, or how do you incorporate? How do you get a bank loan? How do you write a business plan? How do you hire somebody effectively? How do you fire somebody without getting in legal trouble? How do you do public relations? How do you get your name on the internet? There's 1,000 things you got to think about, and that's what this Thrive 15 does. It's a series of 15-minute videos, and you watch them. Every 5 minutes it stops and gives you a test to see if you learned what you're supposed to in the first 5 minutes. You get tested 3 times during the 15 minutes, and you learn something. Then you get points. You can compete with other people around the world. We've got 33 countries involved in this now, and it's just an incredible thing. Even if your listeners want to use it, they can go on there and use the promotion code MAGIC, and they can use it for free for 30 days. They can go in there and watch all the videos they want for 30 days. See if they like it, they can join it. If they don't have to. But it's the way education's coming. It's going to be online. 10 years from now, every kid in America will be able to go to college because it's going to be free. It's going to be online. It may not be as good as going to the campus, but it will be available. And young people have no problem learning on their phone, a little 6-inch screen, or on an iPad. It's going to be easy for people. Older people have a problem with this. I saw at my grandkids' house. Nobody watches the big 48-inch TV anymore but the dog. After dinner, 5 of them go different directions. 1 with an iPad, 2 with their phones, 1 with their laptop. Everybody goes to a different place, and one's watching a movie, one's texting, one's, this is life. People say, "Oh man, this is terrible." Let me tell you, it doesn't matter. This is it. This is what's happened. This is the way it is. Kids go do their thing, and they're going to easily learn. They're going to take more and more courses online, and people, adults, you, me, there's no reason we shouldn't take these courses too. Because if I can learn more, I can do more. If I can do more, they'll pay me more. And that's why I'm always looking for a new story, a new idea, so I get more people to hire me to give keynote speeches. That's what this is really targeted at. For a young person, go use it.
Yeah, I love that idea. I didn't know too much about it, but I think that's so fun to be quizzed every couple minutes, every 5 minutes. Very cool. And I also want to touch back on, you said when you were starting doing your consulting, you needed a tax expert, you got a tax expert. You need an accountant, you got that. So for people who might not have a lot of money, do you have any suggestions for them on how they can do this in a way that's still forming a great business?
Yeah, I think a lot of young people out there can do a lot of this themselves. I'm too old. I can't do a website. Most of them either have a friend who can do it, or you can find a teenager who'll put one up for you. It's easy to put one up yourself now, self-guided on the internet, so you can do your own. If you can't afford a tax accountant, maybe you don't need to. Maybe you can get your father to help you. I just went on the web, and I looked under contracts, and I found one I liked, and I just changed it a little bit, and I made it my contract. That's what I use now for every customer. I just did a Word document and made an invoice. I just made it up, and that's my invoice. I didn't pay for any of that stuff. And my website, I got a guy that runs it for $500 a year, and I write the content, I put the videos on there. He takes care of all that for $500 a year. That's pretty cheap. And a lot of people out there can do it themselves. I tell you, when I don't know how to do something, I just call my grandkids. They come over and show me. They really know how to do everything. And they can edit, and they can put on videos. So these days with technology and those kind of things, a lot of it you can do yourself. You don't need help. Or you can find a friend who will help you. Or somebody in your family. There's a lot of ways to get help without spending too much money.
Good point. Good point. So people want to start a business. They can do these things for free or very inexpensively, or have other people do it. Do you or is there like a litmus test or questions that people should be asking themselves to know that their business idea is viable and something that people would want?
Well, I think it's like at Disney. We interview 2 million guests a year, but I think before you go out, don't fall in love with your idea until you check it out with people to see if anybody really wants it. Sometimes we fall in love with our own ideas, and we're the only one who loves them. And a lot of research. I think you can go online and do a lot of research today. You can find out who else is doing something similar, because probably you're not doing something brand new nobody's ever done in the whole world. You make sure you really understand the cost implications so you don't get into the business and then not have enough funding to be able to do it. Maybe make sure you can get the right investors. It's like this Thrive 15. We had to really work on this to get people to invest, to get the money up, because it takes a whole team of people to write all of these courses and get them online. There's 50, 60 people who have to support their salaries during the startup of this thing. And so we made sure we had the financing in place first, and we had the loans, and we had the money, and there were other people doing this kind of work. There's others out there that do it on different subjects, one on photography, one on how to write websites. There's others out there, so there's a history here that this would probably work. So, but you never know. So you got to. The worst case you can get in is not have funding, because if you get a good idea and you start down the road and you can't finish it, you're never going to get it launched, and then you're not going to get customers. So I'd say, really ask people that you trust. Do you think this will work? How does this work? If you're not good at finance, get some good accountant or finance person to go through your numbers and make sure you're not kidding yourself, because this is the biggest problem. When you have a great idea, sometimes we can be too optimistic, and then it doesn't work. And I would say a lot of them don't work. A lot of ideas people have don't work, and a lot of them don't work because they don't have the funding. They have to stop, even though they had a good idea. So take your time, get the pro formas done right, make sure you know where you're going, get a lot of advice from a lot of people, and then if you feel still good about it, go do it. See if it works.
So for people who are feeling optimistic, I know it seems like there's a trend lately where people want to just quit their jobs and take these leaps of faith. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think that's true. There is, because a lot of young people today don't want to work for big companies. They want to do their thing. It's a trend. There's no question about it. Young people today are different than my generation. They're not as worried about security. They go take those gambles. I would have been terrified to do this when I was their age back then, because this wasn't done. And I think technology's opened up this opportunity for a lot of smart people to dream up new businesses, and provide new services. And if you're tough enough to take the trip, then I say, yeah, go do it. And I would say the younger you are, you ought to do it when you're young, because when you got 2 kids and a mortgage and a college ahead of you, it's harder to take that leap. So take the leap early, make it work. If it doesn't work, then you can always work on something else, because as you get older, you'll be less risk averse. I guarantee you, when you got that big mortgage payment, kids and college facing yourself. If you've got a good idea, go get it done. Go do it.
Absolutely. And so for people who are listening who might have 2 kids and a mortgage, how would you recommend that they start getting this business off the ground?
I'd say they better have a good father-in-law that has a lot of money. Because it's hard. It's hard. It's hard but if it's a great idea, maybe you can go get funding. Maybe you can get a bank loan. Maybe you can get a private equity to invest in it. But let me tell you, the older you are with more financial responsibilities, the harder it is for you to step out of a job in a corporate life where you have health care with benefits and all of that stuff. So you got to be a really tough person to take that leap. But hopefully you've got somebody that's going to support you. And if you got that, then go do it.
Yeah, or maybe just don't even take the leap of faith, huh? Just take a couple hours per week or whatever it is, put it into your business without giving up your cushion.
That's probably the best way to do it. Have a little soft landing place where, and maybe you got to just work harder over the next 5 years, because you can launch the business while you keep working. And that's another case. I think people that have a great idea, sometimes they are doing their job and several hours a week when they get home at night and they're working on it. Absolutely. But would be, yeah, right. Keep your income coming in before you, especially if you have responsibilities in the family.
Yeah. So, okay, so people have their business, they get it started. Now you've worked at some like amazing companies that were so good at just growth. Do you have any tips on like best ways to grow someone's business? And I know there's a lot sorry to interrupt, but I know there's a lot. So I guess just some of the ones that come to your mind right away.
Well, I think, I started with Marriott when they had 32 hotels. Now they have 4,000. I will guarantee you the way Marriott grew their business is quality wins out. Marriott always focused on quality, cleanliness, friendliness, quick check-in, excellent food. Don't think that's the key. If you're going to grow something, people got to love it, they got to want it. And so there was one example of how you do it. Even in my little business, I started out with one customer. He gave me 12 speeches and 12 seminars for a year. And since then, I've done 500. Kind of takes on a life of its own. I wrote a book, then your speeches take off more, and then everybody wants a seminar. And then I wrote the second book, and then I got even more business. And then all of a sudden, we got into 14 languages. So now I'm hearing from people from Russia, and Japan, and China, and Portugal, because the books are in all those languages. So it just kind of, when you start growing and you have a reputation for excellence and reliability, credibility, you keep your promises, you got a message that people want to hear. With social media today, the word will get out. If you're great, the word will get out. You got to learn how to promote yourself on social media sites. Tell people about your business, what you can do for them, get them to call you. And then even I did a lot of free ones. I did it for churches, nonprofits, just to get experience, to get practice. Then I could put them on my list of clients. And then finally, people started paying. And then it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then when I got the third book, I got a lot of credibility. But it took a long time. It took me time to write those books, get them out there, and get 14 languages to buy the book, publishers in all these different countries. Actually, all 3 books were just published in Russian recently. So it's pretty exciting. But you got to grow your business. It takes patience, frankly. You can't just expect overnight success.
Yes, that's a great point. And so for, if you want to have quality and you want to have that excellence, how does pricing come in? Now, I know you said for you did free in the beginning. Did you then gradually raise your prices as well?
You know what? My wife gave me the best advice. She said, Lee, don't underprice yourself. You know a lot. You've got a great resume. You've worked for 3 great companies. Don't underprice yourself. So I put a price out there for a speech. I thought nobody would ever hire me. I didn't get one person pushing back.
Huh.
I will tell you, I charged probably $10,000 more for a speech than I thought I should.
Wow.
Today, for my keynote speeches, I charge $16,000 in the U.S. I charge $25,000 in Europe, $35,000 in Asia. And I don't have any problem because price is what you pay, value is what you get. Let me tell you, pricing is an art. You got to think of what are you delivering? Check the competition. What are other people? What's your experience? Why should somebody pay you that price? If you've got something and you're good at it and you're great at it, people will pay the price. But if you don't deliver, let me tell you, I deliver. When I get finished speaking, I have people in tears. Let me tell you, I bring people to the table because I've learned what the message is, tell the truth, tell people how they can be better. People are willing to pay for that. So my wife was great at that. She said, Lee, don't underprice it. And a lot of us probably in business, when you start out as a consultant, it's easy to underprice yourself. And then it's hard to raise it because you started out too low. So just check the competition, see what everybody's doing, and you just keep tweaking it, playing with it. And, so then you hear other people like Hillary Clinton, she charges $250,000 for an hour speech. So there you are. It's an art.
Absolutely. She has a writer too. She's hooked up.
Exactly. Look at her.
Yeah.
Lady that was living in Arkansas not that long ago, nobody knew who she was. Look at that.
Crazy inspiring.
It happened pretty quick.
It did. It really did.
She's a very competent woman and a lawyer, smart, and she keeps learning.
Mm-hmm.
Makes her mistakes like us, all of us, pick herself up and goes right back in head first.
Yeah, I really liked that email thing where she said she would share all her emails. That was pretty cool. So you also mentioned just like putting yourself out there more on social media. Do you have any kind of strategy around that?
Yeah, I use social media for only my business. I don't put out there Lee Cockerell's having a coffee at Starbucks with Mary. Put on there I'm brushing my teeth right now. I got to go to bed. It's all about my business. And some of it's humorous. Some of it's about my family and how it ties to my business. I try to do creative, humorous little pieces about why time management. Lessons. I give lessons. But if you look at my Facebook page or LinkedIn, Twitter, you go to my Twitter account, there's 600 posts on Twitter. They're all posts about how to be a better leader, a better manager, and a better improved customer service or patient care in the hospital. There's nothing in there about this nonsense stuff about, going to the grocery store and get some coffee. No. Things that it's a resource for people. So if they go to my Twitter account, there's a free resource there, including my podcast. It's called Creating Disney Magic. It's free. You can go there, and that's what I use it for. And that's what I want people. I don't want people to go there and say, wow, this is a bunch of junk on Lee's site. I want them to go there and say, wow, there's 600 posts about how for me to be better. I'm going to listen to this one today, and then I'm going to listen to that one, and then I'm going to read that one. And I think be careful not to abuse social media where people hate to see your name come up.
Huh. Do you think that most of your bookings come from social media, or where do you think most of them come from?
About 20% Disney gives me, wherever, either in Orlando, or they sent me to Turkey this year, to Mexico. They've sent me to give speeches to clients that want a Disney speaker. I would say probably 40 or 50% comes from my website. Somebody goes to the website where I have all my seminars and keynote speeches listed. And then I would say probably 30 or 40% comes from referrals. Somebody was sitting in a room where I spoke before, and they say, wow, I'm going to call this guy and get him to come speak at my convention next year. So a lot of referral, a lot of Disney, and then a website, social media. Somebody sees it, or their father tells them he was in a speech, and you ought to check this guy out, or read. And from my books, in the back of each one of my books, it talks about you can hire me to give speeches, seminars, workshops. So I kind of have it everywhere I can put it, so that there's people learn about you from different places. Disney's great. It's great to have the Disney connection because that's why people hire me. If it was just Lee Cockerell, they probably not ever hire me. But since they like Disney, and I can tell them how to implement it in their business. The first sentence in my book, Creating Magic, says it's not magic that makes Disney World work. It's the way we work that makes it magic. And you can do it in your business too.
So how can people create that kind of, I know it's not magic, how can they create the illusion of magic?
Well, I can tell you the three things we focus on at Disney, which anybody can do. We are fanatical about who we hire. We are very careful who we hire, who we bring into the company. We check them out 12 ways. We're experts at interviewing. We know what to listen for. We try to hire people who know how to overcome obstacles because you have them every day when you deal with the customers and it's raining and it's hot. Don't worry about the skill so much. You can train that. And that's what we do. We are fanatical. We're so clear with people before we hire them, our expectations. That a lot of people get up and say, I don't want to work here. It sounds like the Army, because we have a Disney way of doing things. So we're fanatical about hiring the right people. Second, we are fanatical about training. We train people, test them, and then enforce the training. Let me tell you, just in our Disney Vacation Club, just to be a person who takes the appointments for people to see the hotel rooms, it's 6 weeks training just to take an appointment. I mean, so we train, test, and enforce the training. And last, we create a culture where everybody wakes up in the morning happy to come to work because we treat people very respectfully. We're very inclusive. Everybody has a chance to get ahead at Disney. It's a place where everybody matters and they know they matter. Just those three things. Hire the right people, give them the greatest training in the world, and then create a culture where they're excited to wake up and come to work in the morning because they know they have opportunity. Let me tell you, you do those three things, get extremely higher results. And a lot of people are not doing that. They're not being careful about who they hire. When they hire the wrong person, they don't fire them. They don't train very well. People are not trained. And then they don't test them to make sure the training took place. And then they don't enforce the training. And it's kind of like, at Disney, there's one way to do it. And that's the Disney way. And we train people how to do that. And then that's when you come there, you walk away and you say, wow, wasn't that a great experience? Well, that can be done in any company.
So what are the types of things you're asking people when you're interviewing them?
Well, if it was a customer service, we might have 5 or 6 questions with obstacles. And the question might be, tell me about a specific time you had to deal with an irate customer. And what you want to do is listen to how they handled it and what was the outcome. Let me tell you, if you interview 5 people for a customer service job, and after you ask them 5 or 6 questions like that with an obstacle in it, you listen to how they overcome the obstacles, it'll become very clear to you which one has the can-do, get-it-done attitude. Because people can only talk about what they do. The person who's not good at that, who lets it go, who drops the ball, who never gets back to the customer, they can't talk about it. And let me tell you, everybody has obstacles every day, just like you do. I mean, everybody has them. If you live in L.A., it's the traffic. If you live in Chicago, it's the snow. Sometimes the can-do people, they get there anyway. They leave earlier. They make it happen. They don't have any excuses. And this is why people got to learn more. Even in my book, The Customer Rules, Rule number 9 is all about how to ask the right questions. There's a little book out there they can read on this. They ought to look at Rule number 9 in the Customer Rules. The whole chapter on how to interview better and how to select better and how to deal with people who don't perform. Let me tell you, at the end of the day, your people are your brand. At the end of the day, that's it. Your people are your brand. Everything's a commodity today. If you get the right people answering the phone, the right people greeting your customers, the right people serving your customers, and they're well trained, you will have an incredible business. And I guarantee you, you go to businesses now, including Las Vegas, where people don't have a clue what they're doing. And they got an attitude problem, and they don't do what they're supposed to do. That's the manager's fault. That's not their fault.
So I'm curious now, I recently did a podcast with Ryan Jenkins, who works with a bunch of millennials, and you mentioned now about how kind of young people today are more prone to taking risks. So how do you see the future of Disney? Because I guess millennials are going to be in the next, I think by 2025, they're going to be, I don't remember exactly what the stat is, but the overwhelming majority of the workforce. Do you feel like that's going to impact Disney at all?
Yeah, I think the thing with Disney, we've got a lot of young people working for us now. You hear people all the time say, oh, what about these young people? They don't work like we did. I said, let me tell you what, that's all we got. We got this generation, we got the next generation. A lot of people in my generation were poor performers. And we need to quit thinking about when people were born. We need to make sure that when we work with people, we treat them as individuals. Understand what their aspirations, what they're trying to achieve, help them get where they want to go, give them the training they need. There's a lot of great young people today. I'm not worried about the future at all. I'm just making sure we hire the right millennials, not the wrong millennials. And it's like the right baby boomers, not the wrong baby boomers, and not the right X and Z and V or whatever all these designations are. I don't really care when you're born. I care about how you perform. And I'm going to take care of you, and I'm going to make you successful, so you're going to want to stay with me. You're not going to want to go somewhere else, but I'm going to make sure you are able to achieve your aspirations too. And when I care about you, you're going to care about me. And that's how you have to think about leadership, like your kids. If you take care of your kids well, they don't run away from home.
Yeah, speaking of leadership, I'm glad you brought that up because I was curious because I remember reading how you mentioned that at one point you were a manager and I guess a disgruntled employee hit you over the head with a beer bottle. And since then you just had to learn about basically becoming a better leader, becoming more likable. So would you say like caring about other people, is that one of your biggest kind of tenets of that?
Sure, but that wasn't my problem. My problem was I was an insecure young man who had a position, so I abused my position. I intimidated people. I thought I knew everything when I was young. So I walk up to a waiter and I intimidate him and I approach him the wrong way and I say the wrong thing, so he hits me in the head with a bottle. Okay, so I get 6 stitches over my eye and 8 in the back of my head. Later on, I speak to another guy and I say inappropriate things to him. Pretty demeaning. He comes out of the chair and hits me again over the head with a clipboard. So now I got 24 stitches in my head. Oh. My wife says, Lee, do you think people hit you because of the way you talk to them? Yeah. So I got over that. I haven't been hit since 1973, by the way. I learned that, you got to be more respectful. You got to quit thinking about yourself all the time. You got to be sensitive. You got to have some finesse. How you speak to people matters. How you pay attention to people matters. And I'm an expert at that now. I was not that way. I was a young, immature manager that didn't know what I was doing, introverted. So I kind of took the power place. I've got the position, you got to do what I say. Well, that doesn't work very long. And so I got over it, and I learned that you got to lead people. Now, I didn't trust people back then. I didn't trust anybody. I only trusted myself because I had grown up in a family. I didn't trust anybody. And so I had to work my way out of that because if you're defensive and You don't trust people, people don't want to work with you. I was lucky to have a couple of bosses that really helped me. I had a boss one time that said, Lee, do you realize the whole world's not about Lee Cockerell? I said, okay. Quit being so defensive. The whole world's not about Lee. I'm not attacking you. We're just talking about a business problem here. You don't have to go into all your defenses. And he helped me get over that. And I thank God for him because, nobody likes to work. You ever deal with somebody who they got 12 excuses and they want to make it your fault?
Yes.
Nobody likes that. I got over that. That's probably why I'm still married. I got over that. I still have it down in my stomach, but I control it. Insecurity is hard to get over.
Yeah, those are some really good tips. They're actually really, really helpful. So I'd love to another question I love to ask people, just because, I want our listeners to know, just like everyone else, you're a real human being. You've got everyday struggles. We never stop evolving. So for you, what's something right now that you're currently working through, and how are you getting through it?
I'll tell you something I went through that was the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life. My wife almost died in 08-09. I had to take care of her for 2 years. She was really sick, and I ended up with depression. I got hooked on Ativan and narcotic. I got hooked on sleeping pills. I couldn't sleep. My life was miserable. I finally saw a psychiatrist, and this guy helped me. My wife's fine today. We found three great surgeon who fixed her. I nursed her back to health. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. I didn't care about anything for a year and a half. Depression is a bad, bad place, man. It's made me. I told my wife, I said, Priscilla, I used to love you. Now I'm madly in love with you. I thought you were going to die. And, it changed me dramatically. I think I've moved to a new place around sensitivity for people because it came so close. So close, right in my face. And I tell you, I learned a lot about depression. That's a bad place. You do not want to go there. But the psychiatrist told me, he said, Lee, I'm glad you came in. He said, most men don't come in. I learned a good lesson. There it is. If you need an expert, go get him. You can't solve it by yourself. And so that was the hardest thing I ever went through. And now I pay attention every day. Am I being there for people? Am I being positive? People have enough problems already. They don't need me to make their life worse. So I wake up every morning working through how can I help people more. And I think if it's going through that with my wife, you know what I used to think about depressed people? I used to say, what's their problem? Why don't they get their act together? I thought it was an attitude. Man, did I get a good lesson. I ended up with it myself.
Wow.
It was tough. It was tough.
And so was it the psychiatrist that helped get you out of it? Were there other things that you had to do?
Yeah, he mainly. My wife really, she told me to go see a psychiatrist. I really needed the antidepressants, the drugs. They can cure 80% of people with depression today with the drugs. But a lot of men don't go in. Men think they can solve it. So they end up drinking too much or sleeping or not getting a divorce or whatever else they do, abuse. And the psychiatrist was great. And I remember that morning after he interviewed me, he said, Lee, you're going to be fine. And I'm going to put you on Cymbalta with the pill. And I took it. One day I woke up and I was back to normal. It was a chemical imbalance in my brain from all that stress I was under for 2 years and tried to take care of my wife. And I think about another lesson. If you can't do something, go get help. You don't have to solve it yourself. You need a professional, you need an expert, go get them. And it was the best thing I ever did. And I can spot a depressed person a mile away today, and I really try to help them and get them to go in and get some help, especially men, especially soldiers that don't want to go in and see a psychiatrist because of this macho thing. And, it's just not. We got to make sure we understand it. We can't solve everything ourselves. Sometimes we need professional help.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I feel like that's very, very helpful for people. And just in general, I think this has been great. We've covered a lot of ground, and I love how passionate you are about everything, it seems. So thank you so much for your time. And I would love if you could just let people know where they can go to find out more about you.
Yeah, my website is Lee Cockerell, COCKERELL.com. Everything you ever want to know about me, and probably more than you want to know, is on there. On the site. And you can go to Thrive15.com if you want to watch me. I've got 42 videos on there, and I can talk about all these things, including the depression story. I think the stories are important. Learn how to tell stories. Storytelling is very powerful when you're teaching. And more people need to learn how to tell stories. I think if you watch those videos, you'll see storytelling is pretty impactful. So those are two places. My books are on my website if you want them. They're out there on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Where else? You got any readers that want to order bulk copies? I give a big discount. They can email me. My contact list is on my site too. My address, my email address, my phone number. If somebody's out there depressed and wants to know the name of my psychiatrist, they can call me. I'll get them in touch. I get a lot of calls from people after I do these that say, "Can you tell me the name of your wife's doctor? Who was that surgeon's name? I think we need him." She had a failed bowel resection surgery. Every time I tell this story, I hear from 1,000 people that have the same problem. They're looking for that great doctor, not the good one. They're looking for the great doctor. The good doctor will kill you, and the great one saves your life. So that's how I think about it. There's a lot of information on my website. I hope it's helpful to people.
Spectacular. Well, thank you so much, Lee, for your time.
Okay, Rachel, stay out of the casinos.
Consider it done. I'm not a gambler.
Okay, good deal. Thanks a lot. If you want to do this again, let me know one day.
Wonderful. I'd love to. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to A Better Life. You can find all show notes for this episode at rachelrofay.com. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe so you can automatically get access to all new shows. Let's also connect. Just go onto Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram /RachelRofay and we can talk there. The opinions of all guests here are their own, and I'm not necessarily endorsing any of them. I do want to give you perspective though. And always remember, if you have a choice, choose a better life.